How is everybody doing? This is episode 13 of Sit Down with Sniper. This week we have a very amazing person. We have Andrew Wang. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, it feels good to be introduced by, not only somebody I really respect in the community, but somebody that I can call a true friend. Somebody that I've known for months now. And I'm sure we're gonna get into this, but our origins in this space and how far we've both come and done our own things, but done a lot of similar things too. It's really awesome seeing you running this show. I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud of us.
Yo, man, I greatly appreciate it, Andrew. And I'm beyond proud of you. I believe whenever I first met you, man, you weren't even verified on Twitter. You were just writing. And, dude, but your passion for everything was just, like, out of this world. And I saw, like, very early on why people would gravitate towards you and why I gravitated towards you, because you were just so open and you were willing to help whoever, man. So thank you so much from the very beginning, navigating me through this whole space, because without you, I would be kind of lost myself, man. You got me started early on with the Cool Cats, and we'll talk about that as well. But I did want a couple quick things that has happened throughout the space. I did want to say thank you to everyone that has been listening. We surpassed 1,000 downloads. We've hit 50 countries and reached over 400 cities. So that was like a huge thing to me. I typically don't look at numbers as far as like charts and stuff, but the one little bit that I tend to look at is the locations and like country-wise, so that's been a big thing for me. I'm glad that the reach has been there, and I couldn't have done it without all of you all. Also, Cool Cats, they've continually pushed their release back for their eggs, but for good reasons. They're trying to make everything perfect. So big shout out to them. They're releasing tomorrow, but this will already be aired, so can't wait to see what the game is like. And Wonder Pals and Starcatchers also released their dates, which will be 26th for the Wonder Pals and the 22nd for Starcatchers. So be sure to watch out for them. But Andrew, to you, man, how have you been?
You know, I feel like I've been pretty good lately, and I don't say that as an automatic thing. I say that because if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, honestly, not too great. And I think the reason not only that I wasn't too great before was, this space moves so fast, and I was out in LA, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can keep up with this, right? I'm not used to the attention. I'm not used to feeling like my actions and words could really benefit or hurt somebody just because people listen. I'm not used to seeing money go up and down like that. I'm not used to having to come face to face with my regrets when it's like I should have bought something, I shouldn't have sold something, I should have done this, I should have done that. What's everybody around me doing? And it was just a lot of voices in my head where, it happens sometimes. And I think that was when a few weeks ago I realized that I was just a human being as well. People know me as a really positive person, right? And I genuinely feel that I am. I am really high energy, but I can be like really high energy, but also struggle to get out of bed sometimes. And that just makes me human. I can go on Spaces and be on Twitter and say money doesn't matter and really feel that it doesn't. And then I can have moments where I'm like, dang, am I really looking out for my financial future? Have I not done enough? Have I not made the right moves? And all of that is because I'm human. And I think about a week or so ago, I realized that that same justification to say that I'm only human also means something really positive and really helpful to my psyche. Like, yeah, you're just a human, so if you make mistakes, you feel regret, so what? It's natural. Don't beat yourself up over it. You still have to wake up because your friends are counting on you, because they care about you. You're not in this alone. How special is that? There are opportunities abound, more people to meet, more things to do, and how lucky are you that you get to do this? And when that kind of hit my head, I was like, you know what? I am doing pretty good. So I would say in the last few weeks, the biggest change that has happened is, two separate mindset shifts. And thank goodness I'm on the good side. So that's why I'm so excited to talk to you today as well.
Hell yeah, man. That's kind of like me. There's times that I'll sit here and I'll be like, is what I'm doing really worth it? You know, are my investments really working? And then I sit here and I think to myself, you know, I'm not working a 9 to 5 job right now. I'm able to sit down with friends and people and be on this podcast weekly, and not only do that, just sit here and trade NFTs and have fun with friends, and that right there is like great. So I mean, I look back and I'm like, you know, that's been rewarding for the last, I don't know, since July or earlier on. But that's what I really wanted to ask you. You know, you entered the NFT scene. You've been a journalist for a while. So some may already know that, you know, you have the stories about the 101 upside down cat, which we will talk about. But you were having a little bit of a rougher time during the start of 2021, and I think your last article was February for Washington Post. But you would then go to do 3 articles, Insider 137, by the end of July alone. And July was around the time that Cool Cats launched, July 1st, I believe. So I say all that to say this: what has NFTs done for your life? Have they been a positive impact, more or less? Or do you think it's something that could become catastrophic in the end, as far as this is just too overwhelming, I need to step away? Like, how do you feel about everything?
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you can even touch on that part of my life. And it's crazy to say that part because it really was like not even a year ago to this day, I wrote what we can call my last Web 2 article, which was in the Washington Post. And then on, I wrote a lot for places like, Insider 137, which is Gary Vee's media platform. Wrote for, what's it called? The Verge. It's a pretty well-known tech magazine. Even dropped some of my articles with Keith Grossman's Timepieces community. But my last Web 2 article was on politics. And not only was it on politics, it was on race and racism. This was around the time when there were a lot of news articles about Asian Americans getting attacked in cities. And, I'm Asian American, obviously, and that really kind of struck me because I grew up with that. My uncle was murdered when I was a kid, and most of us think it was a hate crime based on the evidence that there was. And I basically wrote a piece talking about how, despite me going through this, I wanted to think through this thoughtfully and come up with some ideas for unity. And some people liked what I said politically, some didn't. But I think at the very least, it was true to my character. I want to bring people together. I want to let go of resentments. And that took me weeks and weeks. I was not sleeping at all, trying to put that perfect thing together, thinking, this is my shot, this is my chance. And I got it out. And thankfully, some really big people retweeted it, so it did make the rounds. But some of the comments were just hurtful, or worse, apathetic. And nobody really cared that it was me who wrote it. It was more just that it was the platform I was publishing on. And I kind of felt a little bit disappointed. And that disappointment became worse a few weeks later when I kind of, got my check. And it's just $300. And when I got that, I kind of just cried, man. Because I was like, all respect to these newspapers and what they do in terms of upholding truth and holding people accountable. But I was like, is this it? Is this it for me? And so I'm so glad you touched on that part of my life, because I think a lot of us enter this space having gone through certain things that we want to rectify or try again at when we're here. And so if you want to talk more about Cool Cats or whatever has happened since then, I can keep going with that as well. Sniper, you there?
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know if I can hear you.
No, yeah, you're here. I don't know why this mic just cut out, but we'll just clip it. But anyways, I did want to speak about the 101 upside down cat. So with that, Cool Cats, I feel like, have been a huge part of, I wouldn't say your portfolio, but maybe your Twitter persona. I know a lot of people know you for the one of one cat, but I wanted to touch on the fact that that's not just who you are. I know a lot of people say that people will get an NFT and then that becomes your whole personality, but I knew you as Andrew. You know, for some that may not know, you know, you're a journalist living in NYC. I guess you could say journalist and writer living in NYC. I believe you're still there, but you know, you write on NFTs, politics, cryptocurrencies. And I mean, you've been published in numerous things, man. Literally, Washington Post, The Verge, Insider, Jezebel. I think you're sitting at 1:37 p.m. now, like you said, which is Gary Vee's platform. You've been seen in CBS News, Time, Business Insider. You're more than just this upside down cat, and that's something that I don't want to, keep saying over and over again, but I want to stress that to people. I've seen you as someone that's super helpful in this space, and I say all that because I want you to kind of talk me through before we get into Cool Cats. Who is Andrew Wang? Andrew Wang obviously is the upside down Cool Cat number 500, but he is also more than that. I feel like he's more than a journalist. He's more than a writer, and he has much more to offer. And I think a lot of people have that same mindset. But I want to hear from yourself. Who do you feel like you are in this space, or do you feel like you're, helping people? Are you feeling like what you're doing in this space is helpful?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because, there are people who think of me as just a journalist or just a writer, and there are people who just think of me as my upside down cat. And both in some ways are true to an extent, right? I've tried so hard at this writing and journalism thing, and I failed a lot over the last few years, but I've also had some successes here and there, and it has worked out better in the Web3 space. Now with my Upside Down Cat, I guess everybody could say that it was a success. I spent 5 ETH on it on day one of Cool Cats. And I call it day one because if you look at Etherscan or OpenSea, it was technically day two, but I never slept that night. I saw the Cool Cats and I read Klon's story about being a struggling freelance artist, and that's what got me. When people talk about projects, they often say, hey, these are the backgrounds of the artists, and they talk about how they've been at these huge places, done incredible work, or they talk about all the money the team has, or how many followers they have. For me, it was about an artist, and not only where, he came from, but where he hasn't been, where he hadn't been. Because I felt that. I knew all the places that I wanted to go but hadn't gone. And I connected with his story. I saw he was trying to get a second chance in the space. I was like, yo, that's me too. And I just had to go all in and do that. But even with the story like that, I'm like, how special is it that someone like you wants to ask if there's more to that? What I like to say to friends is that the Cool Cat is not me. The Cool Cat helped me become me. And that's what makes it all the more valuable. What I mean by that is, my Cool Cat helped me become immersed in this space. It told me, hey, if you're willing to make this big bet on an NFT at a time when that number, 5 ETH, would have been insane to you for buying a JPEG, and yet you still did it, and that means something, so you might as well go for it. Well, I went for it. And going for it, it wasn't about making like a lot more money. It was about meeting a lot more great people, friends, right? Like you, and we just met in Discord, and months later, we're all founders of projects. Yeah. We're leading DAOs. We're running podcasts, doing Twitter spaces, making video content, onboarding people, showing up at events, speaking at events, getting awards at these events, bringing people together, taking people to places they've never been before. When half a year ago, we were all in such different places. That positivity that I've gained from that, I feel like that's what made me me. So that's really who I'm trying to be every day.
No, yeah, that's the answer I wanted people to hear. I wanted people to know that, this is something that you take very serious. This is something that's helped change your life. And, it doesn't always have to change your life financially. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Even for me, I was doing this during a time of some passings in my family, and I met a lot of great people who helped me. And during that time, I was sitting at home. I wasn't wanting to go outside a lot. I wasn't wanting to go hang out with friends. So to be able to get on here and talk to people that were genuine, it was a much different, like, just a breath of fresh air, and it was just amazing to have so many people from the start. And that's why since July it's been so fun, man. And the Cool Cats, like we said, they've been such a huge community to me. They've been amazing, from the founders to the team to even the people in the chat. It's even whenever you hop in there, people go crazy, and I think they do that because of how nice you've always been, man. Ever since you got that profile picture, we've seen people literally offer you $1 million, for that.
More than $1 million, maybe. I don't know.
No, I mean it was more than $1 million, I think. And I mean, at the time they were putting up, like you said, you bought it for $5. I think someone put like I might be over exaggerating, but like a 300 to 500 ETH offer on it, and it was more than that to you, which was amazing. And so I just wanted to kind of touch on, we know that the one of one Cool Cat means a lot to you, and we know that was a significant moment in your life. But what does the Cool Cats community overall, and Klon and Tom, and what do these people mean to you, or how have they helped you push yourself further in the community?
When I look at people like Klon and the Cool Cats team and the people I've met in the Cool Cats community, I think one of the easiest things to do is just to see it as nostalgia, right? Because we've come so far in the space and so much has happened. We often say, like, hey, don't you remember the good days? The good days when a Cool Cat was $40, but also the good days when we would just chill in Discord. And it felt like there was nothing to do except kind of buy your cat, hold your cat, get more cats when the paycheck came in. To be fair, Cool Cats started going up pretty fast, but there was a point when it felt like very grassroots and really small. And sometimes I feel that urge, whether we're in a bear market and people are complaining, or like today with the Cool Pets launch. You and I were both in that Discord. We saw how toxic it got. People coming in saying horrible things.
Dude, it got so bad.
It was horrible. And that the easy response was to be like, guys, remember when it was just us just vibing, talking about our lives, showing off our cats, freaking out when a Cool Cat got bought for like 2 ETH or something? Or remember when we hit that 1 ETH floor and the chat went crazy, and I'd never seen a barrage of memes and things like that in my life. But I think when I really think hard about it, there's a part of me that wants to go beyond that, to say it's not that those were the good days, but those weren't the best days. The best days are still ahead of us, because the space is still growing, and we need to be stewards of that. I feel like coming out of the Cool Cats community, I really want to call us a cohort, man. Like, I hope that's okay, because it's not like we're in a class, right? Or in some sort of program together. But I feel that so many of us got in at the right time. We got in at the right time when, ETH was fairly low. It was around 2,000, so a little easier for buying NFTs when you saw that number. The space was smaller then. Not a lot of PFP projects were out, right? Bored Ape Yacht Club was out, but it was still finding its way, getting its footing. And Cool Cats came out, and we were like, what is this new thing? This art is kind of cute. It's kind of cool. And there was just such a wholesome vibe. And I think the best is yet to come, because we almost have that responsibility not to recreate that for everybody, because sometimes it's impossible and you got to be real with it. But I do think we have a responsibility to show people that, hey, when we talk about community, like, it really is possible, because we've gone through it, and the market conditions are different now. The social climate is different now. There are more people, different people. Hopefully it's more diverse, which is also a good thing. But, how do we just make this a positive experience for people? How do we make this a learning experience for people? And so that's really how I think about it. Honestly, it feels like responsibility, and I want to step up to that challenge.
No, I mean, it's a big challenge, but not only is it a big challenge, it's doable. And I definitely feel like it's doable for you, and it's doable for a lot of other people. I've always said time and time again, I believe even on this podcast, Cool Cats have changed my life. And even early on, you know, that's where I met you as a friend. We would sit in the Discord and literally talk about the different traits that we'd see. Like the tiger would represent, you know, Hobbes, and how like let's think about the helmet would be like Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob, and like the lab coat would be Rick and Morty. It would just be little things like that, and we would sit in the chat like you said, like old times. And I'm not that Klon and Elu and all of them are too famous now, but literally back then it was so small to where every other message you might see a founder talking, or you know, there wasn't a huge team. It was just the people that were in chat, and we would freak out if a large buy would come by, and it would just be the craziest thing to see. So I mean, just to fast forward, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 7 months, wherever we are now, and just see everything to where, I mean, people are really expecting so much out of this team to where it's unreal. And I tweeted today, like, I'll basically always believe in the Cool Cats team. They've shown me nothing to think otherwise, you know, and they've just been so grateful to me. You know, it would be crazy for me to just give up on them, you know, just because they have to push back a release, or you know, they want to tweak something just to make sure that it's more perfected, or something that the, you know, the people will enjoy more. So, you know, yeah, I really like the Cool Cats. You know, big shout out to them, the team, big friends with Kevin especially. But I did want to ask you, every episode I usually do a POAP. So I didn't even discuss this with you beforehand. So I want to quickly ask, what would you like the secret code for your POAP to be?
Oh man, I would want it to be WLTS. We like the sniper.
We like the sniper.
Because we like the cats, we love the cats. That was such a core saying back in the day, and we still say it. I believe it was Lee, the kid, who really popularized us saying we like the cats, and we would just say it in spaces all the time. We would say it when we were happy. We'd say it when we were kind of down. We would say it when spaces got awkward. We would just be like, we like the cats. And everybody would be like, we like the cats. And then it'd be chill, you know? So let's make it we like the sniper, because it's us talking about cool cats, and I'm on your show, and I want to show my appreciation for you for having me on.
Hell yeah, man. I love that, and I greatly appreciate that. We can set that as it. So anybody listening, you know, I say it time and time again, but if this is your first time hearing it, you know, you can get the POAP app on your phone. It has to be on mobile. You know, so that'll be on Android, iPhone. Just look up POAP, POAP. And then whenever you go to Mint, you can whenever you're hearing this episode, you can go to the secret code and type in WLTS, all capital. Now, Andrew, I did want to ask you, for the POAP, would you be okay putting your upside down cat on it? Of course, you know, these are free. You know, there's no buying behind these. It's free to mint and stuff. Or would you like, I've seen you doodle on Twitter, okay? I've seen you draw here and there, and I know you love to get your artistic side out. Regardless if it's through writing, drawing, speaking on spaces. Would you like to draw something up and we can throw that on the POAP? Or do you have maybe a little cartoon that you've drawn in the past and you want to put it on there? You know, it's totally up to you. You have time to let me know. You don't necessarily have to say right now on the podcast, but you know, you could pick something for the POAP, kind of pick the design, or if you want, I can just do a basic template. But yeah, man, that'll be cool. We can do that for the POAP, and I'll do like 100, 150 of them, and people listening in can grab one of those.
So the answer to that is yes to both. Meaning, yes, we can use the upside down cat, and yes, I will draw it for you. And it'll be a rare Andrew Wang drawing, because I don't mint a lot of those, but I want you to have it.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man.
How's that sound?
That would be so awesome. And you know, I know a lot of people will be listening in because you have a very wide base, I would say, on Twitter. Not only on Twitter, let me not just, you know, say only Twitter. You know, you have a very wide voice throughout many platforms, I feel like, and that's an amazing thing. So for one, I can't thank you enough for being on here. But with everyone listening in, I'm not going to say anything for like financial advice, or, you know, we know to do our own research, but when navigating the NFT space, I think we can agree, especially right now with all these rugs, all these derivatives, all these different things that can really scams are the biggest thing. With all that going on, and we know it can be scary, knowing what you do now, looking back, going from July and before that, and you're no longer a newbie, what would you recommend for anyone that may just be starting out? And is it too late for people? And I mean that as in, what should people go invest in? Should they go buy a cool cat? If there was any piece of knowledge that you could give your previous self in July, if you could, get in that time machine, go back to July. Obviously, we tell ourselves like, hey, buy a Bored Ape, or like buy a couple more cool cats, But what would you really tell yourself as just a little help to help you navigate a little better?
Absolutely. I think this is advice now, but it was a hunch to me a few months ago. And when it's a hunch, you kind of think it's true and you kind of make a play off of that idea. And now it's advice, and I'm willing to give this advice because I have a lot of conviction in it. And I'm sorry I can't tell you what to buy if that's what you're looking for. But what I can tell you is that you have to take a step back when you enter the space and think about what's going on. This is not only a technological revolution, this is a revolution in how we work, how we support artists, how we organize our workforces, right? How we communicate, how we fight for certain values, right? Whether it's kind of on the side of like decentralization, or just on the values of like being good to each other and making sure we take care of others and have like a more human-centric capitalism, human-centric world. And when I think about that, I realize that it's such a social space, right? The NFT space. Like, I don't know. Look, I took one economics class in college, and I didn't even take it in college. I took it after I graduated, but it was during COVID, and I found a link that someone shared that allowed me to sit in on Zoom classes for econ. And I it made my name blank and turned my camera to a black screen, so people thought I was a glitch. Even with like no econ background or no finance background, the fact that I'm able to really get embedded in the space tells me something. The fact that I have a lot of friends with a big finance background and they have no idea what the space is or have no interest in it, in part goes to show me that it's not just about financial knowledge. And financial knowledge can go a long, long way in this space. Don't get me wrong, right? But I would say if you're new to the space, don't focus so much on, say, reading charts, right? Don't even focus so much on floor prices day to day. Take a step back and really get in on the social side. Understand that this is a deeply social space and a deeply psychological space. And start to observe people and start to get involved in communities, because then you can see the social side play out. See how people feel, see how people think, how do they react, right? What do people like? What do they not like? And tell yourself that's alpha, because it really is. We may have the tech and money flowing around, but this is a deeply human space. And why I say that's important is when you learn, what makes people tick and how to connect with them, you can decide to do it in a genuine way, and it'll really pay off. Like, I don't know, I bought that cool cat not because I looked at any chart or whatever, but because I read that artist's story, and not only did I feel that in my soul, I felt that I hadn't seen anything truly like it in that space at the time. So then all of a sudden it made sense. And that's a side that no machine, no algorithm can run and tell you. And so that's like the general idea. The more specific thing, get good at using Twitter. Like, Twitter is so key to NFTs, and you really need to have that literacy, right? Think about, how to have conversations. The best advice I ever got was to use Twitter as a chat room, right? Don't use it as a podium. Don't try to be an influencer or whatever. Use it as a chat room. Ask questions. Solve problems with people. If you don't get something, just be like, yo, can you explain this more? You see a space, be like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll come check it out. And keep that conversation going. Retweet what's said in the space with some ideas. Talk to people. And that's what gets you so embedded in the space. And when you're embedded in the space, you'll find that you naturally start to make a lot better decisions in terms of NFTs that you buy, because you understand, right, what brings us together, and what we love, and what makes us passionate. Just never forget that human side. And it's something that's always going to be underrated in this world, but don't let it don't let it stop you. Let it enable you. Let it help you come alive, and be the person in the space that you want to be.
No, man. I mean, that's beautiful, and that's one thing that I try to preach to a lot of people is that whenever I've gotten into NFTs, I'll admit it to anyone. I was never the person that could quick flip. I couldn't turn point 0.5 into 5 ETH in 2 hours. I was never that person. Excuse me. But the thing about it was I always felt good in investing into communities. I felt good for the long plays. I felt good, investing into people that I've seen actually cared about their project, like Cool Cats from early on. I've seen that Klon was the cartoonist and where he came from 2015. He was doing art in a pop-up tent, trying to sell artwork. And they were still good back then, but it was just people couldn't see it like we see it now, like as in widespread. There wasn't a big platform for him. So for him to keep going, stuff like that, I loved that. And even, for example, you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to ape in. You don't have to just jump right in and spend $10,000 on a project. You don't have to jump right in and just buy the first thing you see. I think a great example of that would be Lucky Ducky. I had Jeremy Fisher on here in a prior episode, and we spoke about the project. But the thing was, he has been around in the space since July. He's been around and kind of got the feel. And from an artist perspective, he didn't just jump in and make a project. He kind of, started as just a consumer at first and then started the project. But as someone, for me, that just made me feel good that he was in the community. He actually cared, and that gave me time to kind of save up for Lucky Ducky, because he still hasn't even released the project yet. So not only that, we've been talking about this project coming out since December, since November, and the fact that it's just now coming out, you look for things like that. You look for genuine people in the space. That's why, like I said, I gravitated towards you so early on in the Cool Cats. So I mean, yeah, I think you touched on some great things, man. Damn, I don't even I mean, for the people listening in, I mean, I think everything will be super crucial that you said. Is there anyone, I did want to ask you, is there anyone whenever, because for me, there was multiple people like yourself, Economist, who was also on the episode, that, they did have a bigger platform than me, but they were never too good for anyone. They never like projected themselves better than the next person. And anytime I ever had a question for either of you or other people, y'all were right there with answers. You never felt higher than me. Was there anyone that maybe helped you in the space? I don't know if maybe you had, I wouldn't say a mentor, but was there anyone that maybe you were following, or I wouldn't say following their wallet, but just kind of help navigate you and was like, hey man, this is something that could help you, or maybe look at this or look at that, or something like that?
Yeah, for myself, I've never cared too much about follower accounts. And the reason I say that is because, look, there are people with millions and tens of millions of followers, right, who are hitting us up to say, hey, how do we do this? How do we enter the NFT space in the right way? Well, at least the good ones are asking that question. But what's so special is that in the space, we're all high engagement people. We all care. We also, I guess, a lot of us have money to spend and move around. And that's a privilege too. But I guess what I'm saying is that every follower in the NFT space is really valuable. And that's what I mean when I say, me having 120,000 that's a lot of valuable people. But so is having 1,000 followers, because 1,000 valuable people who care about you and what you have to say, man, like how cool is that? How powerful is that? Imagine all the things you can do with it, right? When you open up your mind to not saying I need more numbers, but just need better people. And so to that end, I'll never put myself above anybody for that reason, because what my mom always says, it's like in Chinese, but basically like beyond this mountain there's another one. So if you think you're great, there's definitely a mountain out there that's a lot higher than yours. And if you're saying that you're great because you're this big mountain, and that's the only reason you can say you're great, then somebody can just as easily point out that there's another mountain that's bigger than you, and it makes you look like a fool. When you say that, you're here because you want to learn, because you want to connect with people and grow and be yourself, be the person you want to be, that's a lot easier for people to get with. In terms of people, I would say William Tong. He's been at this for longer than me. He's kind of like a big brother to me. And we live in the same hometown back in California when I'm not in New York. Gone streaking. I'm seeing him tonight after the show. He's kind of like a big brother to me as well. I think I gravitate towards that sometimes because, I never had a big brother in my life. It's kind of cool to kind of have that male mentorship. I grew up in what was very much like a matriarchy. Like, women made me, my mom made me, my grandma made me, my female teachers and professors, women teachers, like, they made me. And it's kind of nice to have some like older brothers in my life. And in some ways, like, I consider you like an older brother too. You're just a couple years older than me, right? But you've had that life experience as well.
Yeah, I'm
and
25.
that gives you a lot of that. Yeah, it gives you a lot of that clarity too. So shout out to those two. But honestly, I could talk forever. I could really talk forever. And maybe that's the advice. Maybe you want to get to a place where you could talk forever, either where you can keep talking about people who have made an impact on you, or if you could say one or two people and just talk forever about them.
No, that's awesome, because I mean, and I'm honored to even have you as a friend, man. And you are like a little brother to me, because just going through this space, it's always been hand in hand. Anytime I've ever needed help, you've been right there. And it's vice versa. Anytime you've ever needed anything, I've always, if I have it, you have it. So it's been a beautiful thing, man. And that's why I kind of asked that question, because I never knew if you had that one or two people that kind of helped you. And I mean, I know you can go on list and list of people that have helped you, but sometimes in the beginning you never forget those special people that really kind of, I wouldn't say held your hand, but made sure that you were going to get to where you were going. So big shout out to them, because them are huge people in your life. And I'm sure that from now, even if NFTs go to zero tomorrow, like we always say, I'm sure you'll still remember them people for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'll never forget something
Go ahead.
Toby said. Toby Lasso.
Oh, yeah.
He had this saying once that was, even if it all goes to zero, I'll still have an army of friends. I think about that a lot. And there's so much you can do with that, right? Part of me is like, bring it on. Take it to zero, because I'll show you what I can do with these people. So yeah, that's how I feel.
No, I mean, and that's kind of the mindset I should have with the podcast. There's times, because my friend jokingly, I actually did it as a joke to prove to my friend that I tweeted out "hey" in all lowercase, and that was to show him, like, dude, the people that have been following me over the last couple of months, these aren't just people that listen in for a POAP. These are people that genuinely care. These are people that actually want to have these discussions. So to be able to reach out to that, man, and I can tweet out "hey" and maybe 10-15 people respond. Dude, I didn't respond to everyone, but every one of them people know that they can DM me and they'll get a response. And that's just beautiful, man. And before we end this thing out, I know we're around like the 38 minutes, so I know your time. F Dot, whenever he came on here, he actually caught me by surprise and asked me a question. So I kind of thought to myself, is there anything from your perspective, being who you are, you do have a little bit of a bigger audience, and we know that you never look at the number count as like who you are, but is, for someone like me who's not at that level yet, is there anything that like you could ask me? Maybe? Is there anything that you want to ask me for the podcast, or just me in general?
Yeah, I kind of want to ask you, tell me about the moment you decided you wanted to do this, right? Tell me if it felt like a leap of faith, or if it was something that felt right as a next step. And after you tell me that, tell me, like, if you were to take a next step with this podcast now, what would you do? And if you were to take a leap of faith with this podcast or anything in your life right now, what would you do?
That's a good one that I could have a whole podcast on. But that's a really good question. I would say the TLDR for that would be It was a leap of faith, you know. A big problem that I have is I don't listen back to any of these episodes. I have an audio technician who mixes the episode. He lets me know if it sounds good, and then we go from there. I never expected to have over 1,000 downloads in 10 episodes. Never expected to reach 50 countries, 400 cities. And that's not like a humble brag. That's just things that are unrealistic to me. Like whenever I tell my friends that in person, I kind of laugh about it because it don't seem real. It don't seem real that people listen from China, Nicaragua, Singapore. Them are places I've never been and might not ever get to go to in my life. So to randomly start, and I've said it time and time again, I'm 25 years old. I'm in my mom's basement. Like, I'm not the best person financially. Like, I'm not out here filthy rich at all. And even though some people may think that just, oh, he has a podcast or he has a couple NFTs, I just happen to be one of those people that got in early and got lucky. So to do this podcast, I went out of my own pocket. I went and bought a decent mic. I was blessed enough that my grandma gifted me my computer before she passed away. And I told her, I was like, if you get me a computer, I told her a couple years ago, I was like, if you just help me get a computer, I will take the responsibility on from there to build something. I wasn't sure what it was at the time. It was shoes. But times move on. You gotta go with the flow and change with the wind. So I ended up coming to NFTs, and I just felt like it was right. I was early, and I kind of just adapted to it. So it's helped me out a lot. And with the podcast, it's helped me grow even more. I've got kind of a bigger following, kind of a bigger chance to talk to people and share what I love the most, because that's what started it all. I really wanted to talk about NFTs, and I was like, man, I really want to co-host. I don't know if I could do someone new every week. And I was like, why can't I? Why? Who says I can't? Who says I can't be different? Or like RCA Pod, I think that's what they're called. I like how their podcast is animated. They were the first people to do that. And, who's to say they couldn't do that? Someone probably told them, oh, I wouldn't do that, man. Like, no one does an animated podcast. Like, okay, that's a great point. Nobody does it, so why can't I? And that was just a mindset I had. It's been a big thing. But, for your second part of the question, the only thing that I really, if I could take a leap of faith right now, it would be to withdraw some Ethereum into fiat and probably buy some better equipment, as far as like a much better setup. Like, probably put a couple $1,000s into it to where you might not hear the floor creak on the episode, or you might not get muffled out, or have, I don't know, a cut in the episode. I don't know, maybe have it mixed professionally, something like that. Or I would love, my dream is to kind of like do a studio, and as far as that, meaning have multiple people, like a team. I would love to have like what 137 is. That would be like a dream come true, and kind of like be a founder of something like that. But it's not impossible. But as of right now, I can't really do that. But that's the dream.
What that reminds me of is the first day you came to Cool Cats Discord, and you kind of introduced yourself. You were kind, and you talked about how much you loved Cool Cats, and you're ready to work towards one, and you're gonna trade some other NFTs, things like that, sell some stuff. And you're like, who knows how long this could take. And then a couple days later, you came in, and we're throwing a party because you got a Cool Cat. Like, Cool Cats had dipped a little bit, had become a little bit more accessible. You saw one you wanted, and you were there. So part of me is like, this dude, I'm gonna come on the podcast again in a few weeks, and it's gonna be you're gonna tell me to like fly out to LA. I'm gonna show up. Somebody's gonna take my bags, get me a glass of sparkling water, and sit down with Sniper while we smoke cigars. No, I'm just joking, but I really respect and admire that desire to reinvest in yourself. I think that's what I want people to know, as like what NFT people do. When we get money, so many of us don't just take it and sink it on things like Lambos, or as much as we joke about that, I think from my experience, so many people will reinvest that back into their art, back into their craft. Say, look, I've used these tools to make my art better, or to even get my art out there. So if the community rewards me, I'm gonna reward them back. I'm gonna make things better for everybody because that's how we all win, whether financially, but also emotionally and spiritually. So not only do I believe you, I respect you, and I think it's gonna happen. And that's a good leap of faith to want to take.
Man, I appreciate it. And dude, that's the dream, is that one day that, I'll be in maybe LA or Miami and New York, and I'll be able to have the chance to have a studio and be able to enjoy myself and have people come by or, do my podcast there. But dude, man, Andrew, I can't thank you enough. We've been friends for a while. We've both been busy as hell. You more than me, respectively. I know that you are super busy writing articles, doing spaces. You're everywhere in the space. I don't know how you sleep. But I can't thank you enough for coming on here. I know I got to be generous of your time. Like our friend Ali would say, it's been about 45 minutes. I know you got some plans. So I just can't thank you enough for coming on here, man. I even made our thumbnail a little custom picture to have your upside down cat. So it's going to look great, man. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart just for being a friend, for coming on, and really helping all my listeners just kind of get to know you and hopefully get to navigate the space a little bit smarter from the perspective of what to look for, and just know that there are genuine people out here. There are people like yourself, like me. If you have like any problem, you can reach out to us. We might be busy, but we're never too busy to help someone. We're never too busy to reach out whenever we see something. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, man. And I hope this was a good podcast for you. I know I'm stumbling here and there. You might hear a creaky floor here and there.
I do the same, man.
But hey, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
We are, and you're taking everybody, your viewers, your followers, your community, all along with you. And one last thing I'll say, right? Because this space is all about helping each other and connecting with one another in a deep way. You've gotten this far in the podcast. If there's anything I can help you with, or you want to ask me a question through DMs, just hit me up and say Sniper sent you. So there we go.
Yo, I appreciate it.
You gotta say
man.
Sniper sent you though, because
Facts.
it's like
That'll hold weight.
It's the passcode.
But I mean, Andrew, once again, you've been the best. Keep being you in the space. You're the upside down cat. You're the journalist. You're Andrew Wang. You're a great person. Overall, you've just been amazing. So thank you from me, from the podcast. I say that like we're a big company. It's me and my audio technician, but I can say that now. Thank you from the company. Thank you from me. Thank you for everything. And yeah, man, that'll kind of do it for the episode, man.
And I thank the company as well. Thank you, Sniper.
No problem,
awesome,
man. This has been a great episode. I can't thank you all enough. Don't forget that whenever you claim the POAP, it is WLTS. We love the Sniper, all caps, WLTS on the POAP app on mobile. This has been episode 13. Y'all have a great night. We will be seeing y'all next week. Peace out.